Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today. We'll just give guests a couple of seconds to assemble before we start. Thanks so much for your patience. We are about 1 minute past 4 o'clock here in Frederick, Maryland, so I think we should go ahead and get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the webinar as we inform our residents of Memorial, students and families about a status update with regard to where we are with construction of this exciting new residence hall and our plans for temporary housing for students here on campus. My name is Debbie Ricker. I'm the Provost and Vice President for Academic Affairs here at Hood. And on behalf of President Chapdelaine, the entire senior team and Hood community, we welcome all of you to this conversation. I just want to assure all of you, you've already received some correspondence from us. Memorial Hall is going to be an impressive and contemporary new residential space for our Hood students. And we are so excited to see the progress, and we're so excited to hopefully welcome you into that new space in the fall semester. We also understand that this unforeseen delay is a little frustrating, and believe me, we are as frustrated as you are, but we're in this together as we have often been in this Hood community, surviving a pandemic and other unforeseen challenges, and I feel certain we'll flourish through this one as well. We share your frustration, but we're also equally grateful for your understanding and your flexibility as we resolve this issue together. As we get started with the webinar, I just want to stress that this delay is temporary, and we're working really diligently to get Memorial Hall open as soon as possible and to get our students in that wonderful new space. So we're taking every step and making every effort to get our students in that space. But regardless of when Memorial Hall does open in the fall semester, I want to offer you one assurance, and that is we have space for you here on campus. And later in the webinar, we're going to talk to you about our process for assigning students who are in Memorial Hall to temporary spaces here on campus. So rest assured, we have a place for you here in the fall. So please make your plans accordingly. If I can, I'll take a few seconds to review some of the logistics of our webinar today. I have on the screen with me some of my wonderful colleagues who will serve as panelists, and they're here to not only provide updates, but to be available to answer any questions that you might have throughout the webinar. So I ask all of you, if you have questions, please feel free to put them in the Q&A function. The moderator is going to be monitoring those questions, and we will either address them during our time today, or we will follow up with you individually with a specific response to your targeted questions. So we want to make sure all your questions get answered. I also want to confirm for you that this webinar is being recorded, and our goal is to disseminate this information to all of you directly as residents of Memorial Hall, but also to provide it for students and families who might not have been able to join us today during the webinar. We'll be posting this recording on the Residence Life website and the Hood College website and communicating that link to you when it's finished and ready for viewing. So with that, I'd like to turn this over to my colleague, Rob Kleindens, for an update on our construction progress in Memorial Hall. Rob?
Thanks, Debbie. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rob Kleindens. I'm the Vice President for Finance, and I'm going to share with you an update on the construction, the renovations in Memorial Hall. So currently it's an active construction site, and they expect to be finished with the renovations, and we hope to open the building later in the fall. We will share more specific information with you about dates and timeline as we get it. It's a moving target for several reasons. The project has been delayed, initially delayed because the project was over budget before they started work. So we had to redefine the project and readjust the pricing to move forward. So it got off to a slow start. The contractor, construction manager ran into some unforeseen conditions with an existing building. Once they started the work, some asbestos had to be removed from the project. And there were a number of interior walls that had to be reinforced. So there was some added structural work done to the project. One big thing that delayed the project was some existing conditions with the steel and the roof that forced the location of the new elevator in the center of the building to move to a different location. So there was some redesign work involved with that. That elevator is currently under construction today, so that change is just about complete. And then lastly, there was some modifications to the building that required some updates with permitting through the city. So a bunch of things caused this delay. Current progress, the building, the contractor talks about it in terms of three components: the two ends of the building and the core where the new elevator and stair are being built. The ends of the building have progressed well. All of the framing is done in those areas. All the mechanical plumbing work has been roughed in. They're drywalling those spaces today. It's the core that slowed things down. That's where the elevator is that I talked about. So that's playing catch up right now. So they have to finish that work, build the new stair, close in the walls, put finishes in the building, add doors, and then we have to get the city to inspect it before we can occupy the building. So the contractor is doing the best they can, working as fast as they can to get everything done. And as we move forward, we're going to, assess this day by day. We'll update you all as we learn more in terms of a specific move-in date. But everything is subject to change. There's unknowns that we've hit along the way. I'm hopeful that all of these unforeseen conditions I talked about have been uncovered. But there's still some materials that need to be delivered to the site, for example, windows. And I have my fingers crossed those will arrive on time. And then when the city inspectors go through the building, they might point out some additional work that has to happen before they can issue this occupancy permit. So we'll update you as we move forward through the next few weeks. And then in terms of a place for you all on campus, housing is working to find other rooms on campus for everyone. But as the Vice President for Finance, I wanted to assure everyone that nobody's going to be charged for a room that they're not in yet. So the standard double rates will be the default rate for people that are not in Memorial Hall right away. We're still working out all of the financial logistics. And a lot depends on when folks move into Memorial Hall in terms of what those final costs will be. But we're going to offset the inconvenience to the greatest extent possible. And so that's kind of a quick overview of the delay, the progress, and the sort of the cost to all of you. So now I'm going to hand it over to Dewan and LaShawn for an update on the temporary housing placement process.
Thanks, Rob. All right, so our office, we're going to do everything that we can to accommodate and meet your preferences for temporary housing. At the end of this meeting today, but no later than tomorrow, all of you are going to receive an email to your HUD account that's going to include a survey. This survey was made to have questions about your housing preferences, so LaShawn and myself in our office can do our best to accommodate, okay? Also, not right after this meeting, but later this week and all of next week, our office will be contacting each of the residents for Memorial via phone. We're going to call you one-on-one directly. We would like to follow up, with the survey that you would have completed, and also answer any other questions that we can, to help you with this transition and try to make it as smooth as possible. All right. Due to space restrictions, you most likely will be required to share a double with another student, especially if you already had a roommate. For those who had singles, again, we're going to do our best to accommodate that, spaces permitting. All right. When Memorial Hall is ready to be occupied, we will have volunteers available to help you move from the building that you're in into Memorial, so you won't have to do that on your own. We're going to provide some extra help. And then, when you do have questions or concerns, please reach out to our office via our office number and our office email alias. And LaShawn, there's some other points that you had to make as well.
If you have previously requested and been approved for accessibility services, for accommodations through accessibility services, we will honor and abide by those accommodations. If you have already been assigned a roommate, we will work to accommodate your current roommate assignment in this temporary location, but please be prepared to possibly be assigned a different roommate due to limited available space. We will be assigning a temporary assignment to you no later than July 31st, and temporary housing assignments may include spaces in another residence hall, including Myron, Shriner, Smith, or Coblentz halls. This is based on space available, and we will make these assignments using our existing place and policies and lottery based on credits earned.
Thanks, LaShawn. Now I will turn this over to Matt Lee from marketing.
Thanks, Dewan, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm Matt Lee, class of 2015, and I work with the Office of Marketing Communications here at Hood. So our department is going to be assisting Residence Life with keeping you all informed of what's going on. One of the ways we're planning to do that is we've set up a web page that's going to live under the Residence Life section on the Hood website. That's going to have all of the latest updates. So think of this as your one-stop shop, right? So this is where you can go for the latest and greatest. We're going to be updating this on a regular basis. It's going to have all the latest news as we're learning it. It's going to have a section of frequently asked questions that you can refer to. It's also going to have a section with construction updates that Rob is going to be overseeing. And finally, it's going to have contact information. If you need to reach out with any questions or concerns, you can find all of that there. A link to this webpage is going to go with the survey that will be emailed to you from Residence Life. So just keep your eyes peeled for that. And again, just to reassure everyone, we will be in regular contact with you throughout this process, however long it takes. We will be with you every step of the way. When we learn something, you will be the next to know. We also want to hear your feedback as well. So if there's anything you think we can do better in terms of how we're communicating these updates to you, please don't hesitate to reach out and share your thoughts with us. We want to do the best we can. That is pretty much everything I have from our department. So I think at this time, we're going to open the floor to address any questions that the moderator has received in the Q&A chat.
Thanks, Matt. I've seen that there are some questions that were answered during the panelist comments. So I've noted that it was answered live. There are a few questions, and I'll ask them in the order that it was received. The first is regarding storage. Will there be a storage option for students to store their dorm items or furniture while waiting for their dorm rooms?
Regarding storage, storage won't be necessary if we're going to provide you with a space elsewhere on campus. So your temporary assignment will be your storage space. If you meant something else by that question, please retype it so we can answer it. Thank you.
There's a question, two questions regarding the timeline. Someone asking more specifically about the month and the earliest and latest time that the Residence Hall Memorial will be open.
Yeah, I can answer that based on what I know to date, based on lots of conversations with the construction manager. We were hoping as the schedule slipped that it would be September. But based on all of the things that I outlined earlier, it's looking like it probably won't be until October sometime. So that's what we know as of today. And as I mentioned, one of the things that is outside of the construction manager's control is the inspections by the city and getting that occupancy permit for the building.
There's a question about, that you talked about, Rob. And the question was, when you speak of structural reinforcement and reducing the spending, how can we be assured that the building is safe?
Sure, good question. So the budget reductions that were done before the project started did not involve any structural reductions. Those were changes in finishes and materials inside the building to reduce cost and some different options for the heating and air conditioning system. So nothing in terms of a reduction had impacted the structure. The existing building lasted as long as it has, and the updates that were made were to meet current building codes. So the building codes today are stricter than they were when the building was built. So some of the other changes that were made were based on walls that were uncovered that the structural engineer did not feel comfortable bearing on. So added steel was added to the building. So everyone can be assured that the building is safe. All of the structural engineering was done by a registered engineer, and all of the work has to meet current building codes.
Thanks, Rob. There was, this is related to housing. Question specifically about roommates. Will they get the same roommate that they originally got?
Yes, so you will be paired with the roommates that you received back in April. I know there are some of you who are assigned to triples. Unfortunately, we don't have any triples in any other building open. So one person from that triple will be assigned with another roommate. I did see another question about if you wanted to stay in the building that you're placed in instead of moving back to Memorial. We don't see why that would be an issue. So just so you're aware, that won't be an issue if you decide to stay in the temporary housing and make that your housing for the academic year.
Perfect. And there's a couple of questions from student athletes just asking how, as a fall athlete, would my temporary room be available for early move-in, and how will you handle athletes moving in early this semester?
Yes, so athlete move-in will be the same as it has been in previous years. Your space that you're assigned to for the fall semester will be ready and available for you to move in come your move-in date.
And just to confirm that, LaShawn and Dewan, the move-in date for fall athletes is August 16. Thank you.
A question about where the RAs will be kept during this time, and will they have a temporary roommate?
Our raise will be kept in one of the 4 spaces offered or mentioned earlier in this call. As far as roommates, RAs, you have a job description that comes with the specific room type. So we're going to stick to that job description as you'll be working for the office.
And will students be able to get a copy of room layout so they can get a better sense of the dimension of the rooms in Memorial Hall?
Rob, you want to try that? Take that question.
Roella, can you say that again? I'm sorry.
The question was whether the students that will be living in Memorial can get a copy of room dimensions so they can, I guess, if they're moving other furniture, that they're prepared to put it in there and that there's no issues from a space standpoint.
Yeah, we should be able to get that from the architect.
And a question again for residents' life, how is there going to be enough space in the other dorm buildings to fit all the Memorial attendants?
Oh, we have space for you. It just worked out that way.
And a parent noted that her, his or her, or them's concern was surrounded about regarding building problems that their student experience. What is being done to ensure that this will not happen this year?
Good question. I can answer that. That's a topic of pretty much every day in my office. And so we have a beautiful campus, and part of the reason it's so beautiful is because we've got some beautiful old buildings. And so every year we have surprises that we refer to as deferred maintenance. Recently, we've had elevators break down, air conditioning systems needing repair, and plumbing issues. And so we've got a facilities department with an operations crew that does the best they can to respond. We've had some changes in facilities in terms of staff. We've got some added staff. We have a new gentleman who's got an HVAC background, and so we're building that department and aligning their skills to the needs that we have. The college has a deferred maintenance budget that's part of a capital budget. And that budget each year is about $5 million. And so every year the board approves capital projects. And we are making changes to that capital budget to shift money from general renovations into elevators, air conditioning systems, and upgrades to plumbing. And so we're shifting the focus from interior space to all of these systems that have been failing more so recently.
The next question, I believe LaShawn already answered about temporary housing affect a student's ability to move onto campus early? So I'm just gonna put that as, as answered. There's another question about, will the elevator be functional once Memorial is done?
It has to be. It's a brand new elevator. And in order for us to get a occupancy permit from the city, that elevator is part of the life safety components of the building. And so it will be operational.
There are also a few comments related to the delay in terms of it being a big inconvenience. Are there other besides charging the students for a comparable rate of where they're going to be moving in? Are there other ways that they could be compensated, like Blazer Box or other? And a comment related to that is that it's really upsetting. We need reparations.
Absolutely. We understand that. We've been meeting internally to think of some creative ways to compensate for the inconvenience. So we're open to ideas and suggestions. So please share those and stay tuned as we get closer to that date.
Rob and Roella, I think I would also add that a lot of that depends on where we're trending in terms of the opening. Right, it is upsetting for all of us, and we would love nothing more than to move everyone in right at your scheduled move-in date in August, and to let Memorial start and open on schedule. But we're clear that that's not going to be happening. When it's going to be open, we still don't have a firm date from the contractors. So a lot of what we're talking about in terms of the inconvenience and time will depend on when we can get in. So again, we're really grateful for your patience as we work through this together. And as Rob said, we welcome your ongoing communication and ongoing feedback. And again, we'll keep you updated. As we know updates, you will know them.
And a question, if a student live close enough to commute, can they stay at home until the building is ready and then have the triple in Memorial as currently assigned?
I'll start that answer, but to Juan and LaShawn, I welcome your follow-up. I think we're certainly committed to to accommodating every single Memorial student who committed to be in Memorial to have a space on campus. As Dewan confirmed, we're going to be following up with each individual student via an online survey to your hood.edu email, and then immediately thereafter, beginning on Friday, calling each of the Memorial students to talk about specific options and alternatives exclusively for them. So be prepared in that conversation to discuss with us what that alternative might be that best suits you. And we'll have those follow-ups with you one-on-one individually as we reach out via telephone. Dewan, LaShawn, anything else to add?
That's 100% accurate, Debbie.
This is, related to Memorial, but an incident that occurred last year. A parent noted that their daughter had a single last year, but she was not compensated for her significantly smaller accommodation. And I guess this is maybe an offline conversation with the parent. If you could please send an email to residencelife@hood.edu to deal with that, please do so. I don't know if LaShawn or Dewan want to add anything on that one.
So I need that question repeated because I'm also answering questions via the Q&A.
Yes, there was a parent that noted a concern from last year where their student was not compensated for having a significantly smaller accommodation. I just mentioned that to have that conversation with Rest Life offline. If is your email address residencelife@hood.edu, is that the appropriate way to connect with you offline for any issues such as that?
Yes, that's accurate. And then once we start making phone calls, that parent or student can talk to us at that time as well.
Thank you. Another question, can you guarantee that Memorial will be ready by the spring semester?
So I would respond to that question by saying I haven't heard anything that would indicate that the project is going to slip like 3 months past the date that's being discussed. Something catastrophic would have to happen for that to happen. In terms of a guarantee, the construction manager can't even guarantee to me a date today when they're going to get the work done. So I can't make a guarantee. The only thing that has come up in some of our conversations, and we'd love to get people's feedback on this, is there a point between August 18th and winter break when it doesn't make sense to move into the building? Is there a kind of a time when students would rather just stay where they are and then over the break come back and move into Memorial?
And to follow up on that one, is there any part of the building that's finished?
No, there's no part of the building that's finished. Everything goes through in sort of a sequence of orders. So first was demolition of lots of the interior walls and ceilings and finishes. And then there was major demolition for the significant relocation of a new elevator and a new stair. And then all of the interior metal framing for all the new walls was put up. All of that's in place. All of the HVAC, heating, ventilation, air conditioning, plumbing, rough-ins were put in the building. And they're just starting to do drywall now. So nothing is finished until all of the drywall is up and all of the finishes, which are the floor finishes, the painting on the drywall and the ceilings, is done.
And another housing question, if someone was placed in Memorial due to accessibility accommodation, how will they be accommodated in other buildings that may not be handicap accessible, such as Smith last year?
You would be placed in a building that will meet your needs.
Sean, any follow-up to add there for students who may be concerned about accessibility issues?
I will personally assure that a student is not placed in a room that doesn't meet their needs in terms of accommodation.
And then LaShawn, can you please, a student or an attendee had needed to get the clarification about the selection process. Can you please repeat that one?
Yeah, so this process will work the same as it did in April, so it will be based on accumulated credits.
Thank you. There's a question or there's a comment or question more on or room and room charges. Memorial housing costs only 105 less per semester than the top level housing in Blazer that gives private bathrooms. Who decided that?
So pricing for housing and board and fees is determined by the Planning, Budgeting and Assessment Committee. We refer to that as PBAC. And that's something that's done on a yearly basis. And there's a matrix of the different housing types and then different costs assigned based on the features. So it's kind of a sliding scale from simplest to sort of more preferred features and options.
And then a question, what is the construction worker schedule? Since construction can be quite loud and may disturb students nearby.
So I know they do start pretty early in the morning, and they have been working overtime, additional shifts, Saturdays. There are some days where it's pretty quiet over there, and some days where some crews are gone by 3:30. So it all depends on not only the construction manager, but all the individual subcontracting companies. So there may be like 15 different companies involved in this project, and they all might have different schedules. But I don't think sound should really be an issue. All of the heavy sound work is done, all of the heavy demolition, all of the concrete jackhammering that was done earlier, all of that's done. Right now, they're just putting new things into the building. So it should not be a loud construction site.
And then a question on room layout. Is it similar to Blazer Hall?
I guess some of us can chime in. I'll start since there's others on the call that know Blazer better than I do. But I think Memorial's kind of in between Blazer and a traditional residence hall on campus, where Memorial does have some suites with a couple of rooms and then a private bathroom, but it still does have quite a few traditional double rooms and single rooms. And I think that's why, going back to that cost question, there's kind of like 3 different tiers of pricing for housing on campus.
Yes, that's correct. I actually don't have anything additional to add to that.
Okay.
Another attendee kind of said that their question wasn't answered. So I apologize for that. If I misread that. The question specifically was, why is the value of a private versus communal bathroom only $210 per year? A private bathroom is very desirable feature. So I don't know if the question is or the comment is whether it should cost more than that.
Roella, I think the only thing that's coming to my mind right now, having been involved in this just for the past year is that in addition to looking at our inventory of spaces and our history of pricing, PBAC, the Planning, Budgeting, and Assessment Committee, also looks at other peer institutions and what they price. So there's a analysis that's done to help us come up with these ranges of pricing. So I don't know that we can pinpoint exactly how much that feature cost or how much the ad is. You know, it's based on history, it's based on market conditions, and based on the inventory that we have, and also our understanding of what students can afford.
Bob, I'll also add, I think the pricing conversation that we have in the Planning, Budgeting, and Assessment Committee is based not exclusively on private versus communal bathrooms. It's based on the totality of the living environment as a holistic snapshot and a holistic view, with the private versus communal bathrooms being one of several variables that go into our pricing conversations. So I'll just add that, but you're absolutely right.
Thank you.
And I guess there's another question related to pricing, right? Is a double in Memorial the regular rate, or the semi-suite? If semi-suite, 1,000 more, why? And I think Rob mentioned, and Debbie too, about the analysis done to come up with the pricing or help guide pricing, and also, you know, based on, you know, the type of room, that data on pricing and conversations with staff, that pricing is determined. The next question, is there anything that anyone could do to speed up this process?
I'm all ears. We have been having lots of conversations with the construction manager and their team. We've explored different avenues of delivering this building, even phasing the building, you know, completing the lower floors before the upper floors, completing the south side of the building before the north side of the building. I'm just not aware of anything. We've brought up all kinds of ideas and suggestions to get something sooner. But there's just so many complexities to the work and getting the work done, and all the logistics involved, that nothing has come up that's going to help us out.
And if Memorial is required to have a finished elevator in order to be occupied, does that also apply to the other residence hall for this upcoming fall semester, so that students can make informed decision regarding where they will be temporarily or permanently living?
Well, the driver for Memorial is that in order to get an occupancy permit and pass all of the life safety inspections, we need an elevator that works and is operational. Other buildings on campus have had elevator issues. Those buildings already have occupancy permits. And so facilities is working, you know, or does work as quickly as possible to get those repairs fixed. I know there hasn't been an elevator in Smith Hall, but there's a team from Otis on campus as we speak, replacing the motor in that building. So the plan is for Smith's elevator to be operational in August, and any other elevator issues that we have, we'll respond to as quickly as we can.
So there was a question on how can Hood promise proper living conditions in the future for the new renovated building, because I guess they had issues about comfort and living environment for their child that may be in another residence hall.
Some, I guess, more specifics would be helpful, but again, we have our inventory of housing. And yes, a fair amount of it is older facilities. And so if a student has an issue with something in their room, either residence life or facilities is notified through the work order request. And they respond, whether it's a custodial response for some kind of a cleanup, or an HVAC issue is through plant operations. I know that a lot of window unit air conditioners have been replaced this summer. And a lot of cleaning is going on in the buildings. And so their crew is doing the best they can to provide safe, comfortable facilities for students. But again, if there's something specific that you would like a personal response to, just reach out to Residence Life or myself, and we'll be in touch.
Going to layout. Rob, can you remind us again what a semi-suite in Memorial has to feature, whether it has a bathroom, sink, etc.?
Yeah, I think the typical layout is 3 single rooms and then a shared bathroom with typical sink, toilet, shower.
That's in Blazer. So the difference between Blazer and Memorial, Memorial has 2 4-person semi-suites. And that means that there's two bedrooms in this semi-suite, a little foyer type area, and then there's the bathroom that those 4 people share.
Not singles, but doubles.
Yeah, they're doubles. The triples in Memorial is mixed. So you have a triple room where 3 people share the room and a private bathroom. And then you have some triples that don't have that bathroom included. The double rooms, 2 people share a room. In a single room, 1 person is in that room. And there are bathrooms on each floor that those people who don't have restrooms in their rooms can use. Whereas for Blazer, all the bedrooms in Blazer suites, semi-suites, they all have private bathrooms.
Thank you.
There are a few comments related to compensation because of this inconvenience. There was a comment about could they get priority room selection for next year, or could they get a form of compensation? Could a form of compensation be paying for a double enshriner for the year or semester and staying instead of paying Memorial rate?
I think we'll take all of these suggestions and talk about them as a committee and come up with a plan.
And there's a comment to, I think, pass along to the construction company that, you know, they really need to have people working overtime on the building this month. It's been over a year and nothing is done.
I can share feedback with the construction manager. I know that there are some subcontractors that have been working overtime.
Rob, I think we can also offer the community some assurance that not only have you been giving them consistent reminders of just that fact that we need to expedite as we can the process, but the president has also been very eager to impress upon the construction team the impact of this delay on our students and families.
And then there are two comments related more on the cost of Memorial Hall. There was a comment that Memorial is more expensive than Blazer. What is the cost for Memorial and why is a regular double cost a semi-suite and Memorial? But I don't think those pricing are accurate, but I can ask anyone from Residence Life to verify those housing in case I'm mistaken. The question is really a comment was Memorial being more expensive than Blazer and a regular double being more expensive or cost the same as a semi-suite in Memorial.
So Memorial isn't more expensive than Blazer. And as Debbie stated earlier, that the cost for Memorial was determined based on upgrades and different amenities that the building has that the traditional halls like Shriner, Smith, and Coblentz doesn't have. So there's a lot of different factors that play into the pricing of the rooms in Memorial and Blazer that isn't the same as Smith, Memorial, Shriner, and Coblentz.
Thank you. And then there's a comment about, students getting discounted in there. And Debbie, there's a comment here about President Chapdelaine not being here. I know you had, mentioned the reason she couldn't be here. For anyone that missed that, I don't know if you wanted to repeat.
Absolutely. There are a number of off-campus priorities the president has to take care of, which kept her from being in this webinar today. But I assure you, this is a priority for her, and she has been at the table with us, helping to inform this conversation, helping to inform what our next steps will be in terms of assuring that our community is communicated with and our students are supported. This is a priority for her. She was not available today due to an off-campus commitment. So it isn't that President Chapdelaine couldn't be bothered. President Chapdelaine is our very proud president and would have been here had it not been for an off-campus commitment, I assure you.
And then there are other comments not related specifically to Memorial Hall. LaShawn and Amy and Dewan, it's in the chat. I'll save it for you guys to maybe address at a later time. If you would like, or if you rather answer them here, we can do that. I leave it up to you.
I just answered all the housing questions that I could. The last three all look like comments. So yeah, I think we have everything answered in the Q&A for right now.
Well, I'm sorry, I just want to make sure I'm clear on the plan for the water situation in Myron. Amy, that's something that you'll be available to follow up on. Should the individual email Residence Life at Hood?
Absolutely, yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
And same with the elevator question.
Yeah, I know the elevators, the plan is for them to be operational. And I know that the college goes to the added expense of having an Otis elevator technician on campus during move-in weekend in the event that something were to happen.
And I don't think there's any more questions that weren't already discussed or answered in the chat.
So LaShawn, you'll just reaffirm the seniors getting priority for temporary housing based on our current policy and lottery system. That's correct, right?
Yes, that's correct. It is, we will be placing students based on accumulated credits and giving them their preference based on accumulated credits.
Wonderful.
All right.
75 questions and answers. That's pretty good, but I'm sure if you're like us, once the call ends, there'll be many other questions to follow. So again, I'll just reiterate where we started. If there are questions that you have or concerns, please feel free to reach out to us directly using the Residence Life email alias or any one of us directly to our email inboxes or office phones. We are here and available to answer any questions or concerns that you might have. And Jawan, you want to share with the folks what our next steps will be and what to look forward to? Thank you.
Yes, so just a final reminder. So we will have a web page with updates on the status of Memorial Hall. The web page after this meeting will also include a link to the recording of this current video session. So this way, anyone who was not able to make it, or if you would like to review it again, you'll have access to do so. Also in an email going out to you will be the survey for the temporary housing assignment preferences. Please make sure you complete that by the deadline listed in the survey so we can place you accordingly within our planned timeline. Beginning on Friday, Memorial residents will begin to receive calls individually about the survey and to discuss any other questions you may have. And then all final housing assignments will be complete no later than July 31st.
Thanks, Jawan. Appreciate that. I see that we've had a couple of last minute questions come in. Roella, you want to moderate through those, please?
Yes. There was a question, what numbers will you be calling?
It would be the phone numbers that we have on file for you all. So the cell phone numbers that we have on file would be the numbers that we'll call.
And then a question is, will you be able to view the chat in the recording? And we should be able to download all of the Q&As. And again, Matt and Dewan may have mentioned already that all of that will be sent and also posted on the webpage.
Yes, that is correct. You will have access to it through an email. It's going to be sent to you and it will live on that update webpage.
And there was a question of why the parents didn't get an email about the webinar because they found it through their daughter.
Yes, we always want to communicate with the residents contracted to living on campus. They have the freedom to choose to communicate whatever information they deem necessary, but we have to follow FERPA guidelines.
I think the next comment answers the same thing that Dewan mentioned. And I don't see anything else in the chat.
To follow up on that though, Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, but as we push out all the correspondence to the students, we'll be posting that correspondence on the website just to archive the messages and the updates that have gone out. So it will be there on the website. Is that correct?
Yes, and that webpage is public facing. Anyone, parents, families are able to access that at any time. And it will be a dated log, so you can follow along with, day by day updates.
Thanks, Matt. Are there any other questions here in the last couple of minutes of the webinar today? Again, I want to thank all of you for your time and for your incredibly thoughtful questions. And I assure you, many of those are the same questions we've been asking ourselves and working through over the past few months. So again, thank you. Thank you so much. Panel, is there anything else from your perspectives that we need to say in closing? Wonderful. Well, again, Hood family, I really appreciate your time, your thoughtful input. We are looking incredibly forward to our students being back on campus in August and moving in. And we will continue to communicate with you about the status of Memorial Hall and your temporary housing assignment in the coming weeks. But again, reach out should you have any questions or concerns. We're here. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you.